Hello, this is Robbie Mitchell here from Head in the Cloud Development. Today I'm going to show you how to use NetSuite's SuiteScript 2.1 API the Head in the Cloud way. We'll be coding in TypeScript using the build tools that Head in the Cloud has created to make writing and uploading SuiteScripts faster, easier, and more reliable. This video is being recorded in January 2023 on NetSuite version 2023.1. Before we get into it, let's talk about what has changed since the last video I did on this a year ago. Two things really. Basically in my videos I alternate between using Mac OS and Windows, and also between using WebStorm and VS Code. So in 2020 I did a video on VS Code on Mac, in 2021 I did one on WebStorm and Windows, and last year I did one on WebStorm on Mac. So here we are now doing VS Code in Windows. Second, you'll notice that we're now compiling our TypeScript to ES 2020. We started doing this when we switched to using SuiteScript 2.1, since the new NetSuite script processing servers are much more advanced than the old ones. This means that the resulting JavaScript code is much more readable to us humans. So moving on, the goals of this video are to get you set up with a development environment that can automatically upload TypeScript code to NetSuite using token-based authentication, to enable you to have SuiteScript 2.0 API IntelliSense as you type, to walk through a real-life example of a client script written in SuiteScript 2.1, and we'll show you how to use the Google Maps API to geocode a calendar event record. And of course, we'll demonstrate uploading, implementing, and testing the script in NetSuite. To summarize, what we're going to do together today is create a client script that converts a textual address into latitude-longitude coordinates using the Google API. This video is intended for NetSuite developers and administrators. You should have the administrator role in NetSuite to do everything I cover here. You should also at least be familiar with JavaScript and basic web technologies here, and I assume that hopefully you've at least looked at the SuiteScript API before. So step one, let's download some software. The IDE we're using is VS Code by Microsoft. Unlike WebStorm, it is totally free. You can download it from code.visualstudio.com/download. Second, we're going to be installing Node.js. I recommend downloading whatever the current long-term support version is. And I'll post this as a comment, but you'll want to download the script files that I use here. I'm posting it on our website after this video. So I'm actually doing this on a brand new Windows installation. I literally just set this up a couple of hours ago. So let's see how it goes. And to be honest, I don't actually use Windows all that often, so you guys will probably be more familiar with it than I am. But let's see how it goes. First, we'll download VS Code. I'm going to go for the system installer, whatever that means. Now let's install Node.js. We'll get the version 18 LTS. Looks like Node is installing Chocolatey here. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll let it do its thing. Okay, well, this Chocolatey installation seems to have gotten stuck here installing Visual Studio 2019 build tools. So we're just going to leave this here and move on. So let's go to the code file that I downloaded. It's in my downloads folder, but I'm going to move it to, I'm going to unzip it in my documents folder. I'm going to unzip this file. I'm going to extract it to my documents folder here. I'm just going to delete this Mac folder. That was just some setup files that we don't need. Okay, so now let's go ahead and open this folder in VS Code. I'm going to do File, Open Folder, go to my Documents, and open the folder. So the first time it's going to ask you if you want to trust the folder. I generally do trust the folders that I'm opening. It might warn you about not having Git. If you plan on using it, you can download and install it. I think I will. I'm not going to show installing this as part of this demo, though it shouldn't really be necessary. So let's make this a bit bigger and look at what we've got here. So as part of using Node, we need to have gulp installed globally. So to do that, we can open a terminal and run npm install -g gulp. This should just take a minute. Okay, great, that worked. So now before we get into the code, let's go ahead and log into NetSuite because there's one thing we need to install there. Okay, here we are in NetSuite, and the thing we want to do here is install our HITC uploader bundle. So you can go to Customization, Suite Bundler, Search and Install Bundles. Here just type in head in the cloud, push enter, and it should be the first one that comes up. Yep, here it is, head in the cloud, upload restlet. So just click on that, and then click the blue install button. And now, while that's installing, we can go ahead and check to make sure we have token-based authentication switched on. So let's go to Setup, Enable Features, and go to the Suite Cloud tab. Scroll down a bit and look under Manage Authentication and just make sure token-based authentication is switched on. So when the bundle finishes installing, the other thing you need to do is edit your employee record and make sure to add on the HITC uploader role here. That will allow us to do the next step, which is creating our access token. So go to Setup, Users and Roles, Access Tokens, New. The application name is the HITC uploader. User is you. Role is HITC uploader. And you might just save it with the default name, but if you use multiple computers like I do, then maybe you want to give it a name specific to the computer you're on. Okay, now leave this here. We're going to copy it into our files in a minute, but for now, let's just leave it and we'll come right back to it. Now we're ready to switch back to setting up our coding environment. So let's look at how this project folder is set up. starting with the files in the root folder. Let's take a look at each one and I'll explain them. Let's start with package.json. When using Node.js, a package.json file tells the Node package manager which packages and versions need to be installed. So this is how we tell it to load our 3 head in the cloud modules that we use to validate our code against the API and to upload it to NetSuite. Now whenever we update this file, we need to run the npm install command. So let's go ahead and do that in our terminal. Running this command will create the Node modules folder here that contains everything we ask Node for. This should only take a minute here. So the next file we can look at is tsconfig.json. This file controls how TypeScript files are handled. Here you'll see that the target version of JavaScript is ES 2020, as I mentioned earlier. Next, let's look at this .hitc upload file. This is the file that tells the uploader which NetSuite accounts pertain to this project, which accounts we'll be uploading to, in other words. So for example, here you might have your production account, a sandbox, and maybe your release preview. This file contains a list of objects where we specify an account number, a file cabinet folder, and an account name. You'll see how this is used in a few minutes. Go ahead and set this up on your end with your account. After that, we'll set up our hitc upload token file. This is an array of tokens. You'll want to have a token set up for each account that you've listed in your .hitc upload file. So this is where we're going to plug in the values from the token we just created in NetSuite. So to start with, I'm going to copy the company ID for the account we're working in. I'm going to copy the token ID and the token secret. I'll save that. Okay, now let's talk about how to actually trigger the upload of a script from VS Code. Take a look in this .vs code folder. There's a tasks.json file. VS Code has a concept of a build task. This shows that our default build task uses the command gulp, and the arguments build and upload with the currently selected file. One thing to note here is a key difference between Mac and Windows. If you're on a Mac, this would just be the word gulp, but in Windows we have to put the .cmd afterwards. So from here, let's talk about keyboard shortcuts. To look at that, go to File, Preferences, Keyboard Shortcuts. Here in the search bar, just type in the word build, and then you'll see what the command is for the run build task. For me, it's Control-Shift-B. That should work fine. We'll test that in a couple of minutes. So we should be set up to upload now. So before we start coding, let's talk again at what we want our script to do. Let's say we have some really cool mapping applications, such as Maps for NetSuite, and we want to be able to visually see where our calendar events are geographically. Let me go to a customer record. So for example, if I have an on-site meeting here with this customer on February 1st, I need the address and the latitude and longitude coordinates to be stored on the event record so I can see it on a map. That's what we're going to implement today using the Google Maps API. So to do that, as a first step, let's just get a very simple client script up and running on the calendar event record. So if you download the zip file, you'll get the finished version of this script. But let's start from scratch so you can see what it looks like. And it's worth mentioning the name of this folder is important. The uploader does look for a specific SSV2 folder. So we'll create a new file. I'm just going to call it calendar event client.ts. And of course, the first thing we have to do is our block comment at the top of the script. So first I put here what the script is called. Then of course we've got the two mandatory tags for the client script and the API version. Next, for IntelliSense, we always import the entry points module here. And for our script, we're going to use the field changed entry point. Basically, we're going to make it so that when the user goes to enter an event, when they set the company, it's going to pull in the address and geocode it. The field we're going to use to trigger this is the company field. So we're going to say if context.fieldID equals company. So let's get the company. Oops. I don't know what I pressed there, but this alignment looks better anyway. So now let's use an if statement to make sure there is a company, because we obviously don't want this code to run if the user clears the company. Now the first thing we need to do is look up the company address. To do that, we need the search module. And of course, since we're in a client script, we're going to do it as a promise. Let's make this a bit wider. Can we do that? Yep. And now to avoid the syntax of a .then statement, let's use the await keyword here. And of course that means that our function has to be async. So now we'll get the address text. Okay, so next, in order to use Google's API, we need to create an API key. This is very easy. I'll show you how. I'm going to log into the Google Cloud Console. Now once you're in, you probably need to create a project to work in. And once you're in the project, let's make sure the Maps API gets enabled. So we'll go to the APIs and Services, go to the library. There's a Maps category here. And for this example, we're going to use the geocoding API. So make sure this API is enabled. So in the menu on the left, if we go to APIs and Services, we can go to Credentials. And I'm going to click the Create Credentials button at the top. And click API Key. And go ahead and copy this. And let's take a quick look at the API key settings. Let's go ahead and restrict it just to the geocoding API. It's generally not good to have a totally unrestricted key. Okay, so let's try it out. Paste in my key there. Now the way we send the geocoding request is like this. We'll do another await. And to do the request, we now need the HTTPS module. Let's say https.get.promise, and the URL is https://maps.googleapis.com/maps/apis/geocode/json !address equals address text, and key equals Google API key. Let's put this on a new line just so it looks a bit cleaner. Oh gosh. I'm really not used to these keyboard shortcuts. Okay, there, now we can see everything. And then we'll need to parse the response. Gosh. And if the response status is okay, then we will extract the coordinates from it. This is how we do that. This is the format that Google gives you the data in. And we can use TypeScript to say that we know that this has a latitude and a longitude in it. Then we can set the values of our three fields. And let's throw up an error if the status does not come back okay, because, you know, bad address data is a common issue. So if it fails, we'll let the users know why. Now this should be response object. Okay, so that's it. So now let's upload and test it. So save the file, and I think it was Control-Shift-B. Yeah, that looks about right. So now it should ask me of my two accounts which one I want to upload it to. Make this a bit bigger. So you can see when it compiles it, it creates a build folder here that has the JavaScript file in it. So now it's asking me which account, so I'm going to enter number 2 for my leading QA account. I know it says 1 here, but that's the 0-based index of what I just entered. So there we go. That's what it should look like. That means it uploaded successfully. And just to show you, I'm just going to show you what the JavaScript looks like. You'll see it actually looks very similar to the TypeScript we were just looking at. So let's implement it in NetSuite now and try it out. So we're going to go to Customization, Scripts, New, Calendar, Event, Client. And I'm going to copy the script title that I said I would use here. Save that. And then we'll go ahead and deploy it to event records. They might be named calendar event in your account, so check that. Select all roles. I'm going to leave it in testing so it only runs for me, and click Save. So now I'm going to go to Activities, Scheduling, Events, New, and I'm going to enter in that customer we were looking at. And when I do, it should geocode the address here. Oh, looks like there's an error in the console here. Let's see, did I type something wrong? I probably did. I would guess it's probably the URL. Actually, to find out, I'll show you how to debug this. This is a great opportunity. I'll put the console down here at the bottom. And once we get into our script by clicking on the error, we can set a breakpoint it looked like it failed to parse the JSON, so what I'm going to do is trigger this again by resetting the customer. And okay, so we got a Google response. Let's see what it is. If I just mouse over this. Okay, the error is 404 not found. So that means I probably typed the URL wrong. I probably should have copied and pasted it, which hopefully is what you'll actually do. So what did I get wrong here? We said maps.googleapis.com. Ah, here it is. It's not APIs, it's just API singular. So let's fix that. Push Control-Shift-B to re-upload. Oh wait, I fixed it in the JavaScript file. That's not the right thing to do. I need to fix it in the TypeScript. So there we go, Control-Shift-B. Uploading now. And number 2. Okay, uploaded. So let's try that again. I'm going to refresh the page. Enter company. Still no address. So this is an interesting error. It actually looks like the change that I just made did not take effect. And now, maybe you've seen this before. I know I see it periodically in NetSuite where the code that we have running isn't actually the code that gets run. So, like here, for example, if I edit the JavaScript file, we see it correctly. Sometimes all you have to do is make a slight change here. So maybe I'll just change this to a capital letter and click Save, and that'll sometimes refresh the file. So let's try it again. Still no. Okay, this script file is being very sticky. I'm going to try undeploying it and redeploying it. I'll redeploy it. And we'll refresh this, try it one more time. Okay, it's being really sticky, so I'm just going to retry. I'm going to delete the script and create it again. Maybe if you're lucky, you didn't make the same mistake I did, where you have to do this. But it's good practice. Okay, let's try it again. All right, well, there's some progress. The address came through now. But what about the coordinates? Oh great, another typo. Look, it's location. I knew I should have specified the type here a bit better. So this time I'm going to try just editing it directly in the script, which I know is usually a big no-no, but let's see if that solves our problem here. Okay, let's try it again. Nope, okay. I'm going to spare you while I delete the script and recreate it again. Alright, let's do it properly this time. I'm going to set a script ID because it's going to work this time for sure. Hopefully they'll fix whatever this script updating bug is. It's really annoying. Okay, so now let's set the company. Alright, there we go. Finally it worked. Okay, so that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this intro to SuiteScript 2.1 in TypeScript. Feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you at Sweet World. Thanks for watching.